Sickle has written, produced, and directed well over 200 hours of television and film. He has collaborated with George Lucas, Stephen King, George Clooney, and Vince Gilligan, among others. He was the creator and showrunner of the NBC cult classic series, The Pretender. Yes, Pretender. And his miniseries, Tin Man, earned him an Emmy nomination and was the highest rated miniseries in the history of the Sci-Fi Channel. Currently, he's prepping Veil, a sci-fi thriller for Starling Entertainment, and is also in negotiations for a feature film reimagining of The Pretender. Craig has taught many writing, directing, acting workshops and has been a featured speaker at numerous panels. His script writing mentoring company has helped countless unknown writers across the globe realize their goal of writing for TV professionally. And I have personally named him the nicest guy in Los Angeles for 10 years running. We'll see if he can make 11, but yeah, that's still up in the air. Yeah, don't slack off on me. Okay. Joel Bergvall had a meteoric career in documentary work in his late teens and early 20s, working professionally as a cinematographer and editor even before graduating high school. After freelancing for local and national TV networks, he transitioned to international work as a documentary filmmaker and producer. He has followed this documentary stint with scripted television work, earning him numerous awards, including Sweden's highest award for media productions. Currently, he is the head of film and television for Down Home, an entertainment, media, and marketing company founded by Tim McGraw and headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. He is an Academy Award-nominated filmmaker and the creative voice behind some of the biggest brand stories of the past decade, giving him a unique blend of Hollywood and brand experience. But I think that we can all agree his biggest accomplishment is that he can pull together any look with the perfect hat. That is what I think he does best. So I kind of want to jump into audience questions right away. I think I've had Craig in numerous of my classes. I've spent many moments with Joel online discussing pitches. His creative brain is amazing. So any questions from the creative executive point of view, from the showrunner EP point of view, let's dive into those right away. Yep. Hi.
Hello, my name is Lita. I am mainly a TV writer, or I'm hoping to be a TV writer, and my pilot is in the festival. And my biggest question is about how you really kind of get into show running. Because I know it's not like writing, you just write and you go, and it's like, how do you find your pathway to being a showrunner? Because that's what I want to do.
Yep.
Well,
Should we?
you learn from others.
One second. I don't know if it's on. Take mine home. Make sure this is on.
Just be open to learning all the time, because you learn. I've had some great mentors: Stephen J. Cannell, Kenny Johnson, Peter Fisher. These are people that have been doing it long before I was, and when I got there, they were willing to teach me how to do it. And so you have to be open to that, because there's always somebody who knows better than you do, especially when you're coming in. So you take in every piece of knowledge. I can't just tell you how many times that my mentors taught me things that I thought I knew, but I really didn't. So be open to your mentors, always be open to input. It doesn't mean you have to take it, but you'll know if it's good advice or not, and it's usually good advice because they have experience. And just be open to all of that.
It's great advice. I think that learning, on the subject of learning, I think that learn everything you can about all aspects of film production. A showrunner needs to know everything about how everything works. So learning is key. Secondly, I think if you switch brains from the creative side and think about it more tactically, recognize the fact that you need leverage to become a showrunner. You need to have some kind of entry point that will allow people to, not to trust you because they won't, but it'll allow them, it will afford them the opportunity to have to involve you and then pair you with someone that they do trust. And then when you earn the trust of that person, then maybe they'll trust you after a couple of runs. And the way to do that, I think, is learning, working with your peers, working your way up, and then also figuring out how to create really, really strong material that's undeniable, that will get you to a place where you create a show. And if you have that piece of IP or that right idea that matches with the right producer in the right studio and all the right elements come together, then you have a show. And all of a sudden you created a show, and now people will look at you and go, oh, you're the person that created a show. You must know what you're doing, I assume. So now they're gonna give you a shot. So that's the strategy side of it, I think.
I'm gonna see if this is on. Great. I'm gonna run back.
I want to make sure if I've gotten you before, anyone that hasn't had a chance to ask a question, I want to make sure I'm not overlooking before you got one? Yeah.
Hi there, my name's David. I work in the camera and Genie departments here in Los Angeles. So for Joel, what are some redeeming qualities that you look for in your key collaborators, such as like your gaffer or the director?
Don't be an asshole. I mean, it's fundamentally very simple. Be the best human being that you can be. Be kind to everybody. Be nice. Always show up on time. Actually show up a little early. Leave a little late. Work a little extra hard. Apply yourself. Befriend people. Ask how you can help. Don't be there for yourself. Be there for everybody else.
I'd just like to second that because, when we did our show, we used to project we are an asshole-free environment here. We don't want people around here who are negative, who are rowing against the product and what we're trying to do and the family that we've got here. And Joel couldn't be more correct. It's just like, be your best you and work hard. That's really what it comes down to. And everything you do should be for the team.
And by the way, we're no way implying that you're an asshole, just to be clear. So that everybody heard.
It felt kind of like you were.
That's what I realized that after the fact. I'm just, that's not the case. You seem awesome.
I mean, we don't know. You could be. We don't know. We're just
No,
guessing.
he's not. Come on, stop it. No, he's great. I'm hiring that guy tomorrow. I don't have that kind of power. Don't ask me for a job.
This question is for Joel. I was just curious as to what your mandate is for Tim McGraw's company.
It's a really good question, and it's one we pondered early because we knew that we were going to be sprinting on film and television long before we even stood the company up and figured out what our model was or what our logo looked like. We're just starting to get there now. And on the film and television side, we've narrowed it down to 4 categories or 4. I don't like to talk about it as mandates. Sorry, I'm boring you because we had this conversation already. It's a good question. I don't like to think of it as mandates because I think mandates dictates that there are rules that you have to follow, and I think that stifles creativity. So I like to think of it as the 4 corners of our sandbox, where all the fun toys are that we can get to play with. And the corners, the definition of those corners is really important because it helps you, it liberates you by adding structure to what you're trying to create. And those 4 corners for us, if I can remember them offhand now, is audience, character, scope, and tone. So on the audience side, we're obviously centered at what people used to call Middle America. We like to call it the New American Middle because it's not defined by geography, it's defined by personality traits and sort of a sense of belonging in a much stronger way than geography. So we're aiming for people who are in the middle, really, spiritually more than anything else. That's the audience. What was the second one? No, that's last. The second one's character. Character is the second one. So on the character side, we really focus on, we love stories about underdogs and unlikely heroes and people that are striving for their family, their team, their sense of belonging. It's really all about that sense of belonging. It's about that sense of community and bringing people together. I think that that's something that, this is great. This is a sense of community. People are missing this today. Social media was supposed to bring people together and did the exact opposite. And we're much more fragmented and separated than we've ever been. And bringing that sense of community back into storytelling is really important for us, because that's ultimately where heroes come from. Heroes are people who sacrifice for the greater good, not for themselves. So that's a really large part of the character side. Scope, we have a first look deal with Skydance, and they're our lead investor. So they do, as Dana Goldberg likes to say, they do big boy movies on the movie side. And on the television side, it's a little more diverse, but they are selling to streamers and at the top of the market. So they're doing big things. So scope is really important for us. We tell commercial stories aimed at a large audience that can swing big in that way. And then on the tone side, it's all about positivity for us. And that's really, it's not positivity in the cheesy way that everything needs to be happy and go lucky. It's much more, we can go dark, we can go deep, we can go all of the places, but there has to be light at the end of the tunnel. There has to be something we're striving for at the end of the story. If we tell a story that bums people out, we've done it wrong. We want people to watch the story, they can laugh, they can cry, they can think all of the Hitchcock quotes, but they have to leave it feeling like that was worthwhile, and I don't need to go have a shower or watch a sitcom now to get over what I just experienced, even though I enjoyed it. So that's tonally kind of where we live. You want to add something to what did we fuck up and how should we change it?
You didn't fuck anything up. No.
Not yet.
No, it's, and it's all, I think you have to be cautious about trying to aim your projects at a certain outline necessarily. Just be true to what you want to write and what you think your project needs in terms of the feelings and emotions. And thank God there's great companies like this that'll get it. So just be true to what your vision is and make it personal. And I don't think you can ever go wrong writing something that feels true to you and real and personal. And I think that's what you guys are doing.
Amen.
Yeah, and just to echo that even more, as one of the very first lessons I learned as an actor in acting school was don't try to be anybody else, because there's somebody else out there being that who's doing it better, right? Because that's innately who they are. So you have to be the best version of yourself, and that's what's going to book jobs, and that's what's going to sell stories. As you know, if you've been out there pitching, the target is constantly moving. You cannot go out and try to hit every target, because by the time you adjust to hit it, it will have moved again. So the best thing that you can do is tell your story the way you want to tell it, and then hopefully that will resonate with the right place. And I feel like it's the same exact thing as an actor, right? Not going out trying to be what you think they want to see, but rather be who you truly are. Yes?
Thank you for being here today. This is fantastic. So where do you find your stories? So hypothetically, if a screenwriter has a screenplay that checks all 4 of those boxes, how would that story be discovered by your team?
Right now, pitch, go.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I'll give you a perfect example. We had our first project that we have sold to Netflix, which is going into production shortly, was an original pitch by a screenwriter. It was not a written document in any way, shape, or form. It's a screenwriter who's accomplished, who's done things, who's at the level of being worthy of being considered a showrunner, back to your first question. And who even though he had all of those experiences, ultimately ended up getting paired because he hadn't run the show for 10 years. So welcome to the industry. Thankfully, we found a good partner and everybody's happy, so it's all good. But it was an original pitch. We have several projects that are either original pitches based on an original creative thought, they're based on a relationship with an existing property, or they're based on IP, they could be based on an article or whatever. We have a lot of things that we generate internally. We have a lot of things that come to us from oh, this audio podcast company had an idea that they didn't think was right for a podcast, but they thought maybe it should be a TV show, and they created an entire Bible that we completely threw out because we loved the original idea, but what was in there wasn't working and was too much, right? So it comes from anywhere and everywhere. I would fundamentally say that the idea is surprisingly, it has to align, but it's surprisingly the least important. The world is full of ideas, everybody has them, everybody comes up to me all the time and says, hey, what about a X, Y, and Z with this spin? And I'm like, sure, I don't know, maybe that could work, I don't know. You can't copyright an idea, you can copyright actual expression, creative expression. And so you have to have all the right pieces. It's a packaging exercise of the right writer, with the right creatives, with the right actor, with like, how do we align all of these things with what we want? So it comes from everywhere and anywhere, which is a terrible answer, but it's true.
And can you just talk, I mean, I think your story about the Pretender coming back is very interesting, and I think great for writers to hear in terms of how you just don't know when a project is, where it's gonna end up. Maybe just talk a little bit about that.
You really don't. I mean, all I've been hearing is like, oh, you gotta have IP right now, IP. Well, okay, I've got to show that it's IP. And so we had interest in doing it as a feature recently, and literally Thursday before the weekend, they were like, yeah, Studio A is interested in all this. And then The Fall Guy came out and bombed. And on Monday it was like, TV shows really don't land as features, so we're not interested anymore. So that's literally 3 days, one weekend of a box office can make the difference between whether your project is going forward or not. And the fragility of the business is just like that, because the business people, they got to see a bottom line. They got to see, if Fall Guy had done, I'd probably be in production now if the Fall Guy had gone through the roof. But after a while, after you've been doing it a while, you realize that's just going to happen. And it hasn't dampened my enthusiasm at all for moving forward. I still think our show is better as a new TV series anyway than a feature. But you just have to just keep plugging it, and if your legs get cut out from underneath you, you just get right back up, and if you believe in your idea, you just keep going with it. And that's I think
right, which I think that's an example of a target moving as well, right? Like over 3 days, this is a go. Monday, sorry, not happening anymore. I mean, Target goes like that. Yeah. So, yeah. Yes, please. I'm going to walk over here and then there while you add.
While you're walking.
Yep.
I think the reason why this happens, and by the way, that is so true. We've had the exact same. Don Holmes been stood up for 4 seconds, and we've already had that experience. And in my past life, I had it a million times over, and it's because the business, you have to remember, is driven by 3 things: fear, insecurity, and ego. Everybody's terrified. Everybody knows that they are complete imposters, and they want to be on the cover of whatever the thing is that's happening. So once you recognize that, you can maneuver around it, and you can find some peace in all the stupidity that happens. That's all I got.
I'd add one thing to that, which is your most potent weapon: the word no. If some company comes to you and says, "Oh, we love this, but we can only do this, we can only do this, we can only do this," tell them no. And you'd be surprised how scared that makes them. And that brings a smile to your face. Because they then you've got them. So no is very powerful.
That's called playing on fear, people. Playing on fear.
I know. I'm seeing this different side to nice. I take back your award for nice guy in LA, Craig.
Yeah, we're gonna start a gang.
I like it. Okay.
As producing executives, how much of your work would you say is creative versus business or logistical?
Well, for me, in TV, creating something and being the showrunner, creative is first, but you learn quickly that your day is filled with, you got to deal with the studio, you got to deal with the networks, you got to deal with the budget, you got to deal with department heads who are coming to you with all these problems, and suddenly what you thought was a fun, creative playground is rife with a lot of real business questions, right? But you get used to that. You learn. I mean, it's constantly a learning process. So you fight for the creative things with the business folks. If they say, "Oh, you can't do that," we want to do this. We're going to do this, and here's how we're going to do it. You learn above all else, in my opinion, the best way to solve a problem is creativity, not throw money at it. There's always problems that we can't afford that. Okay, how about if we do this? It's even better creatively and it's cheaper. So you have to use your creativity to solve problems versus money, because they'll always try to shut you down on that. So after a while, once they start to trust you, as Joel mentioned, then you're freer to do more things and take more chances, because they know you're not going to bankrupt them, and they know you're going to deliver it on time, and it's going to be a great product.
That's a perfect answer to that question. I'll just add to it by attempting to summarize. I think that our view of creativity in this business is limited. We think of creativity as all the things that goes into the writing and the directing and the acting and the costume design, et cetera, but I think that the business decisions that you just described, the way you actually resolve them to get things made, is incredibly creative. And I have had a very varied background. It's all about learning. I've gone through a myriad of stages of things that I've done in my life. I don't think that managing or maneuvering business people is any less creative than any of all the other things that I've done. It's just, you have to be just as crazy.
There was one, yep, right here, yep.
Hey guys, I was just wondering, like the earlier panel, they had some good information about what people who are submitting films should be looking for, whether it's like distributors or like a producer's rep. But for people trying to do television and use the film fest circuit, who are the kinds of people that we would be looking for, trying to connect with, or like trying to reach out to during that whole process?
I think the most important thing is as a writer, you have the right material that you need to show what you can do, which could be, in my thinking, an original feature script that you have in your coffer, an original TV pilot, and if you're trying to get a staff job on a show, try to write an existing spec script of an existing show that you can submit. The third one is less important to me. Show us your originality through original pilot and a feature, and then use that, send it out to managers. You're gonna write a ton of emails, you're gonna write, and by the way, get to know the receptionist or the assistant to the writer, to the executive producer, because those are the people that are gonna get your script to the people that need to see it. So there's a lot of different aspects to it, but so as a writer, do that. If you're an actor, I would just tape yourself auditions, different roles, different scenes that you can do. It's just about material. If you're a composer, take an existing scene from a movie and put your own music on it and transform it to what you do. It's all about just building material in your resume that you can share with the people that can make a difference.
I would also, by the way, great answer again, but I would also say that the difference between film and television, just in terms of how you go about getting them made, structurally is vast, right? They're made completely differently. Films you can independently finance and sell. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can do it. Television, not so much. You need your distribution partner in order to make your television show stand up. Now, if you can make it for pennies on the dollar, your distribution partner could be yourself and the local ice cream parlor where you shoot your workplace comedy at nights, because they'll sponsor your show for $4 because they're advertising whatever they're selling, right? Like, that's a way to do it. And stretch that all the way up to a Netflix show. Like, you gotta align people on the distribution front that have a vested interest in getting your story out there. That is not the same as your interest, but parallel and tied to it. That's a very broad answer, but it's not easy to do, but that's a big difference, I think.
Yeah.
Hi. On top of all the awesome advice, do you think there's a market for kind of what I call gritty faith? So like talking about hard topics, probably in an inspirational way, but has faith in it for TV, for narrative and drama TV?
I think Joel probably has a better grasp of the market, but creatively, I think anything that is, I love what you just said. I'm interested in what that would be. So, there's always, I don't think there's any limitations on creativity. You can't just say, well, nobody wants that, or nobody. If you believe in it, if it's really cool, and you can put a genre on its ear, please do. Because all the movies and TV shows that we all talk about over the water cooler, they're never the ones that are just like everything else. They're always the ones that are different. Be different.
There's a market for everything. Niche is rich. So figure out what your niche is and where your audience is, and cater to that, right? And that doesn't mean that the particular niche that you're describing could sustain a $100 million TV project. Maybe it could sustain a $10,000 per episode TV project because you have to sell it on Vimeo. I don't know. Maybe there's a distributor out there who's willing to pay top dollar for exactly that. It depends on what the market is, but there is a market for everything. You just have to figure out how to get to the audience. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and I think to that point, when I was very, very first pitching and working with a really experienced showrunner, one of the things that always stuck with me was universal theme with a very specific point of view. And I think that when we can, as writers, tap into that, of this very universal, we all understand this theme, now here's my specific point of view on that, is where I think the magic happens. Yep.
Hi, I'm just curious, when you have a project that doesn't work out, when you have a deal that doesn't go through, or in the case of your project when the Fall Guy opened and did not do well, I'm just generally curious, what actions or what things do you do to kind of get yourself up and keep pushing forward?
Well, you have to believe in the project. In the current case of Pretender, I totally believe in it. I think at the time now is the perfect time to reboot that show. But on any other projects, we've all gotten no, and at some point you kind of just either have to say, all right, I'm going to move on creatively to something different. If you believe in it strongly enough, then you maybe try to make adjustments to it based on the marketplace that you're seeing or what's popular or whatever. But it's got to come down to what you feel in your heart, I think, in terms of that project. Do you want to keep fighting for it? Do it. If you don't, then move on. And because everybody in this room, I think, has tons of creativity that they're going to move to another project if this one doesn't go. So just kind of work it out in your head. Is this one I want to really go to battle on? And if you do, go to battle on it. If it's not, then just find the next thing. Does that, I don't know if that answers. Yeah.
I would say that if you're going to let a failure or a no or a disaster or catastrophe affect you for more than a day and a half, you're in the wrong business. Things catch fire all the time. Everything goes south all the time. There's a quote I'm going to completely butcher from Shakespeare in Love, which is about theater but applies to this business. It's a certain road to utter and complete disaster, and then somehow it all works out in the end. How? I don't know. That's what it does. You just figure it out, and you have to be entrepreneurial. So when you get a no, you mentioned this earlier, I think, when you get a no, that's great information. When you fail, that's great information. This is not about succeeding. It's about what you learn on the way to succeeding. You're not doing this to do the thing that everybody thinks you're doing. That's not what this is about. It's about the effort of getting to that place, not about getting there. It's cliche, it's about the journey, but it's so true, because it really is, your ultimate happiness and satisfaction is not going to come from the success, because the success is fleeting and then it's gone on Tuesday. Like, it doesn't matter, it didn't affect you. Now what are you going to do on Wednesday? The same thing, because the thing that you do is the thing that you do. It's not about succeeding, it's about doing your best on the way to succeeding. So just let the no's be a blessing, just a lesson, just revel in them.
I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. Every day. No, but I think that's all amazing advice, and I would add to that one thing that I have learned as an actor that I've carried over as a writer, just practically, is that I just try not to put everything in one place. So like the sun doesn't rise and set on any one project or on any one audition. Yes, I have something, whatever I'm working on in the moment is my favorite and I'm most passionate about it, but I also have 10 other things that are sitting back here, so that when that one breaks my heart, I can easily pull myself up and go, okay, I'm gonna focus on this one right now. And then that one breaks my heart, maybe I'll pop back to this one again. So I think that, I mean, I don't know if you feel that way about your, right? But
nothing is more exciting than the next great idea.
Next thing,
I mean,
next one.
It's magic, you know. It's like you've been dealing with one idea for 6 months, and if it looks like it's kind of petering out or whatever, it's sort of like somebody calls you and says, oh, we want something like this, and boom, you're on it, and it feels exciting because it's new and different, and it's
Another one was garbage. It was garbage.
Yeah, forget that.
Where am I running to? Somebody show me. Right here? Amazing. Great.
Well, thank you for mentioning breaking your heart, because to make a project, you do have to love it, and anything you love has the power to break your heart. So, but actually, on a different topic, with IP becoming so prominent now, how often is it that an original screenplay gets taken in and an executive might say, this is great, but let's bolt on some IP to this and then we'll do it. Does that happen often, or is that a myth?
No, not really. I mean, because do they try? Yes. Does it work? No. That's really it. Like, you can't bolt a piece of something onto something that wasn't designed to hold it in the first place. It just doesn't work. So at the end of the day, the executives they tried to make a Slinky movie for I don't know how long. Like, come on, like, whatever. IP has always been a thing that people believe in. I think if you're worried about the IP train of stuff and you have a great original idea that you want to turn into a movie or a TV show, write an article, get a friend to publish it on Forbes, license that article, and go, I have IP now. It's just an excuse to walk into a meeting and say, I have something that is important. I'm sorry, but it's baloney. It's just the dumbest thing ever. Like, it's just, IP is as useless as all the other things that they try to base things on. But you need it because they want it.
Regarding, like, if you had a pilot script, you can say that you wanted to get in front of production companies, you think it's a great idea, like, and I think you touched upon this, but like, how would you go about doing that? Is it just through agents, managers? Would you cold email people? Like, I feel like that's one of the hardest parts. So.
Well, I always don't say an agent or a manager. That's true. When we did Tender, we wrote that as a spec script. We didn't pitch it because we felt it was different, and we just wanted to just write it and show people what it was as opposed to trying to pitch it. And our managers and our agents at the time got it to the right people, got the script to the right people. So 2 parts to that. One, if you really believe in it, I would just write it. If you want to turn a part of that script that you've written into a scene that you want to audition with, do that. And again, you've got product, you got a script, you got a tape that shows you doing the scene if it's a role that you think you should be doing. And then a lot of it is going to just be networking. You know, your friend works at Joel's company and they know Joel, and they have lunch with Joel, or they bring Joel lunch, and they can bring a script. I mean, we'll work on that. Yeah. If they're not, they should be. But no. But I mean, there again, in my background, I'm sure Joel and a lot of people in the business, you sort of take these chances of, you knock on a door. My former writing partner delivered a script to a guy who did the Police Academy movies. At the time, they were the hottest movies in Hollywood. And he said, I saw you at the office, and you said you'd read my script. It was a script he and I wrote. And Paul was like, I kind of remember you, kid, but I don't know who you are. And he took the script, and what happened was, in the original Police Academy, in the second Police Academy movie, he took jokes out of our script. And he admitted it. He admitted it. But he gave us a chance to pitch. He bought our pitch, and we had our first feature made. Now, this is impossible, right? This is how stuff kind of happens. So just keep trying every angle you can. I mean, they joke about the log line being an elevator pitch, but you have log line because, who knows, George Clooney might walk into the elevator and you've got him alone for 5 seconds. Hit him with your pitch.
And you're pitching him? You have him alone for 5 seconds?
Well,
and you're pitching him?
well, that's another stuff. But no, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Mary.
I would say that it's different as an actor and as a writer, right? Like, those are just two different approaches. First of all, as an actor, I applaud your ability to receive rejection on a daily basis or a weekly basis, or however often you get to it. Well done. That is the best lesson you can learn. Just learning how to be rejected is fabulous for this business. As a writer, just focus on writing. Honestly, yes, you got to get your script read by people. Befriend a bunch of assistants and people who work in the much, much lower rungs of the industry. If your script is good, they will pass it along. They will send it up the food chain and go, hey, this is right for so-and-so. This just has that tone that we were looking for. This is the thing. I think this voice is somebody we should meet. Good work gets around. And if you've written 12 scripts and you've given them to 379 people, and one of them gave it to one boss, maybe stick with acting. Sorry, I'm just being brutally honest, but like, good work gets shared. We are all desperate to read amazing scripts. An amazing script doesn't mean that it's something that is, it doesn't mean that it's amazing for you or amazing for the audience. It's amazing for the circumstances in which we can package it for us, right? For me, I'm looking for scripts that fit the templates that we have, or the business models that we have, where we can plug it into all of the different considerations. It has to tick all of these different boxes to be our thing. And that's a lot of boxes, and there's not a lot of stuff that ticks those boxes. We have a very healthy development slate right now with maybe 20 projects, and we're trying to keep it small. I don't want it to get to 25 or 30 because I'm gonna start forgetting what the things are. And people talk about having an active development slate of 65 projects. I'm like, really? 65 things are active? What are you, Disney? Like, no, you don't have 65 things. I barely keep track of 20. So just keep plugging at it is really the only answer.
You can get notes that are just totally off base. And even when you get a note, run it through your own process. If you don't agree with it, it doesn't mean you have to take the note. But generally, a good note will trigger you to think about what they're talking about and maybe adjust it. Just be careful who you're getting the thoughts from.
Couldn't agree more. This may require a longer answer. I'll be at the bar. But I would say that I don't personally log into any of these services. I just don't. And if somebody comes to me and says, oh, you should really read this thing because I found it on whatever, I'm gonna go, I don't know. What does that mean? Why should I read it? I don't know where that is, right? Maybe it's a way to find some people. I don't know who's on there. But if if that is the way to get into the sort of assistant network and to get into people who are in different rungs of the industry, great, fabulous, then that's fantastic. If it's also a way on the lower budget side to get into producers who are actively looking for things that they can produce that aren't going to necessarily be originally licensed to Netflix, but may end up there at the end of it, that's great too. Like, there's lots of wonderful opportunities. The only two names that I would recognize that would mean anything to me is if somebody says this was on the blacklist or this won the nickel. Those are the only two, right? And even then I would go, all right, but how does it fit us? I have my boxes to tick. I got to fit it into my pipeline. Just because it was an amazingly, creatively the most amazing script, I can't get that made. I love the Lord of the Rings movie. I can't produce those. I can't get that made. I don't know how to, that doesn't fit our model. It's not what we're doing. It's not the kind of story that I am currently empowered to tell through the pipelines that we have. So it's much more about product market fit, sounds really boring, but it's true, than it is about how good it is. The fact that it's awesome is table stakes. You have to be awesome. And if you're not awesome, submit it to all your friends and your family and your relatives until somebody actually critiques you and tells you what they really think, and then rework it. That's really the only way. Make it awesome, and that's why the blacklist matters and why nickel matters, because, you know, I judge the nickel every now and then. I am not kind in my critiques. I'm very straightforward in how I critique the scripts. I read them and I go, well, here's what is absolutely not working, and here's why it doesn't have potential over here, or why this character is flawed in its design, or why the story concept doesn't work. Again, doesn't mean I'm right. I'm not right, but I'm ruthless.
I love that. Okay, well, you remembered yours? Okay. Well, I will say that Craig, I've been in a writer's room with Craig, and he has some of the most insightful and specific things to say in terms of feedback, so I'll give him a shameless plug for his website, which is scripTVisions.com, and he is amazing, and his feedback and his notes I would 100% trust. So if you're looking for that kind of a place to go, I would say check out his website.
Thank you, Katie.
So, you were talking about the elevator pitch thing earlier, like if you were to be in the elevator with Steven Spielberg. So here's the thing that, like, I get really anxious about is like this, like, going up to somebody and then like they instantly are like, oh, this person just wants something from me. So like, for example, like with Sandy here, I was like, oh, I want to like tell her I'm an actor. But then I was also like, okay, but I don't want her to just think that I just like want something from her. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you balance the like, the elevator pitch versus the like, you know, I don't know. Or do you just not care? Do you just like say, F it, I'm just gonna give them my pitch and not care?
Well, you have to have that F it thing, because, and people that are receiving your F it thing, they have to know that in this business, they're gonna get the F it thing at the restaurant they're eating at, or the elevator they're in, or whatever, because they probably did the same thing, right? I did. I'm sure Joel probably had moments where he was pitching or selling something, and so don't be ashamed of it. It's just part of what our unique business is, which is, well, in all sales, it's sales. So don't be afraid to sell what you believe in, and don't be worried about, look, if the person is a jerk, they'll just say, hey, shut up, I just want to ride the elevator, don't talk to me. But if they listen, that there you go. But they understand. Most of the people in this business understand that there are a lot of creative people that have ideas to sell and things that they want to have heard. Don't ever be afraid to do it. You just, because again, as Joel said, failure is okay. Failure is where you grow. And if they walk out of the elevator without giving you any notes, that's on them, not you. You had the gumption and the courage to share something you believed in. Never stop doing that.
Yes, I agree with that. And I would also say that we're really good at saying no. right? That's the job, right? And I'm actually terrible at it, but I'm learning. But you know, as an actor, you want to yes and everything because that's how we operate, right? By the way, I'm not an actor. Would be a terrible actor. But as a creative executive, you want to yes and everything because you're working with creative people and you want to yes and plus up and help support and build and find out where the gold is. And like, every idea could be amazing. That said, if I put my executive hat on, it's all about figuring out what fits into the boxes, what fits into the pipeline, how does it take the things, does it click into the gears that I really need to click into? And I'm very, very honest about pointing out when it doesn't. And I think that's really important. You will get a lot of, not dishonest, but you get a lot of not exactly forthcoming answers from people who hear things when you pitch it to them. And they're gonna say how wonderful and how amazing it is, and then you're not gonna hear anything for 3 weeks, and then they're gonna come back or not come back, and you just know that it died. That's unfortunately how the business works, so you have to develop a tough skin for it. But I think it's worth probing. It's better to probe for the no and understand why the no is coming, because it's not about the thing you're presenting at the end of the day. It's about how it fits into what they're doing. That's really the key. So that's why don't take the no personally. Take the no as an educational point where you go, oh, I see where the bumpers are on this ride. I just hit a bumper over there. My thing doesn't fit in that pocket. Got it. I'll move over to other pockets. But don't take it personally. Just take it as information, because that's really all it is.
I love that, and I think it's a great thing to end on. And to that point, I think just being very specific with your networking. A lot of my students are asking, constantly want to know about networking and how to do it, and they think of it as this big thing where you go into a room full of 100 people and you pitch every single person in that room. And to all the points made up here tonight, my pitch is not going to be right for everybody, and it is up to me to specifically go, this is the person I want to connect with, because it makes sense. Not just because they're a person that makes big decisions, but because it makes sense for me to go, I'm somebody that should be working with you, and here's why. So I think that has always guided me in terms of when I've tried to meet people, is to really just go, I'm not just gonna go up and, because I know who this person is, be like, hey, you're a famous person, I'd like to work with you, but to really have that specific connection that you feel like this makes sense for me to approach this person.
Let me add to that.
Yeah, please.
So one addition to that is, think of it as information gathering rather than trying to make a sale. Approach people with the idea that you don't know exactly what they're looking for. You have an idea, you think you know, but there are parameters that they're dealing with that you just can't know, right? It's just, you just can't have a clue what the things are that makes them tick their boxes. So approach it with the mindset of, hey, I have this thing I'm thinking about developing, or I'm working on, or whatever state it's in. It's X, Y, and Z. How does that fit into your line of business? And they will tell you, oh, that's really interesting, but here are the problems. Because of this and because of that, it doesn't work. Because of this, I can't do it. And then you go, well, that's really interesting. Either on the fly, or when you come back later, you go, here's actually why that's not a problem for this particular idea, and how we circumvented that thing that you're really afraid of, because I understand what you're not looking for. So think of it as information gathering to sort of get to the truth of what they're actually looking for. And don't think of it as, oh, I have made a perfect baby and I must now find its adoptive home. Because that's not how that works. We're all making the baby together. Sorry, that's a gross analogy, but we're at least raising it. I don't know, something like that. Did I mention I'll be at the bar?
Or that you've been rejected and the idea is dead. Don't believe that either, because you're just in the wrong elevator with the wrong person for that idea. That's it.
I'm so grateful for you guys. So blessed to know you as humans. So grateful to have you here tonight.